So I want to just lay some facts out here. So as a historian, one of the ways in which we grapple with conversations around civil rights and human rights and black power and whatnot is oftentimes the masses are taught the classical phase of civil rights, which basically takes place from 1954 to 1965, the Voting Rights Act, or 1968, which is the assassination of Dr. King and the Fair Housing Act. The new ways in which historians engage that, though, is we open it up, we look at it from the bottom up. And so the argument is that civil and human rights has been a part of the black experience since the first Africans came to this country, set foot in the Western Hemisphere. And so it negates that very narrow kind of view, and I can show you that numerous ways. I mean, the Dred Scott decision of 1857 is a civil rights issue. It's an issue of citizenship. But I want to share this bit of data with you all. Atlanta's population, in the 1960s, Atlanta's population increased from 455 in 1960 to 502, 500 in 1969. The non-white population grew from 186,820, 38.3%, to 236,800 to 47.7%. The city gained about 50,000 non-whites and lost about 35,000 whites in the 9 years, making a net gain in total population of 15. What I'm talking about here is white flight, okay? I often tell my students, if you really want to study racism, study the policies. So let me give you the policies. Within the black community between 1950 and 1960, the schools were inadequate and overcrowded for black students. They needed better housing. There were too few blacks that served on grand and petty juries, which was an issue of franchisement and voting. Not enough blacks were employed by the city, and none of those employed could or had been promoted. You had blacks that had no representation on the Atlanta Board of Aldermen, and it shows where blacks should receive more job opportunities with local government agencies, but this did not exist. And so these are the things that William Hartsfield and Ivan Allen had to work against. And I mean, they were courageous. But there's another conversation that takes place here as well. In the 1950s, cities close to other southern cities such as Greensboro, Nashville, New Orleans, Little Rock, Houston and Dallas were all acting out, Jackson, Selma, Montgomery, they were all acting out. And William Hartsfield understood that if we can present Atlanta as being something different, then we can serve as being exemplary and being good for business. So the city too busy to hate is a business move. It's not an issue of real racial conciliarity. And we all get it. And so to look at the policies on how this parlays in terms of black life, in terms of the quality of black life, you had 41 major parks for white Atlantans in the city, where you had 3 for blacks. 20 football fields for whites, none for blacks. This is in the 1960s. 16 recreation centers for whites, 3 for blacks. 12 swimming pools for whites, 3 for blacks. 22 baseball diamonds for whites, 3 for blacks. 119 tennis courts for whites, no more than 8 for blacks. What we're talking about here is the quality of life. So there's a population of the black masses that are involved in segregation, that primarily live on the southern part of the city, that were totally outside of the tropes of the black Mecca. Okay? And so the conversations with the 60s is the city too busy to hate is a business move, but it's not one that really speaks to social mobility.